Hi, I'm Evan, and you're watching Hot Rod Madness.
Hot Rod Madness, where every car has a story. If you love rat rods, street rods, American classic muscle, even the unusual, including those ground-pounding, tire-smoking street machines, we got them. Fire them up, Hot Rod Madness style, with your host, Tim the Milkman, along with the Hot Rod Madness crew. Welcome to Hot Rod Madness. From brass era automobiles to cars of the future, come along and experience some of the most beautiful classic collector and special interest cars ever produced. These automobiles are rare works of art, seldom seen, expensive and beautiful. From Chateau Alon Winery and Resort in Brazelton, Georgia, it's the 2018 Atlanta Concours de Elegance.
Harry, how are you, man?
I'm well. Thank you. Thank you for
sir.
coming. It's a pleasure to have you all here today.
The Concours show, my friends. Yeah. Wow, there's some elegant rides here. I mean, I ain't even broke the surface yet, and I'm seeing one-of-a-kind stuff here, folks, that you would truly be interested in if you're a real car guy like Harry and myself.
Absolutely.
Appreciation here today. Wow, amazing.
It's wonderful because these people brought these cars to share with other people.
Yeah.
It's exciting to stand there and talk to them and have them tell you the story behind the car. Yeah. It makes it that much more tangible. It makes it that much more meaningful when people tell you who owned the car, where the car came from, and yes, there are some extremely valuable, but there are also some extremely rare and great stories behind all these cars, and it's nice to talk to the basically to talk to the owners. I mean, it's great.
I've already collected one or two stories. It's truly amazing. The history is just phenomenal. I mean, the things that you grow up looking at these cars and you're like, yeah, that's, it ain't got no doors on it, blah, blah, blah. Later on when you grow up and really look at them, man.
You realize it.
Oh, wow.
There's a car back here that it's an old Chrysler station wagon, white Chrysler station wagon that belonged to a very famous politician, Everett Dirksen. It's been in their family since the car was new in 1962.
Wow.
The Dirksen family is there with their car.
Oh, really? From
all of these years ago. The car was used out on the campaign trail.
Yeah, see, Harry, that's one of those families I got to go talk to.
Yep, you got to go talk to them.
How long has the venue here been going?
This is our third year with the show. Mm-hmm. We started planning this 5 years ago.
Okay.
We're typically at the very end of October, the end of September, beginning of October.
Yes, sir.
It's been a great tribute to Don Panos and Chateau Alon because, Don Panos, God rest his soul, he was one of the first people to jump in line and help us out.
Wow.
It's really cool, very cool.
I don't see it slowing down, Harry.
Thank you.
The field is pretty much full, but I see it keep growing. It's going to keep getting bigger.
Yes, and we're going to grow to a certain number of cars. I don't know what that is, but we want to make sure that all of the entrants get visibility. That people get to see their cars. So we don't want to be 300 or 400 cars because you can't see that.
Sure. Yeah.
And we want to divide them up into classes. We have docent tours, so if you're not a big car fan, you can walk around with somebody who is and who can explain stuff like that Stanley steamer that's behind us. I mean, it's a lot of fun.
Well, I'm going to get that story later on. Cool. It's going to be fantastic,
Very
man.
Cool.
Can't wait. Harry, what an event, man. Thank you for having Hot Rod Madness out here.
No, it's a real pleasure. Thank you for coming.
All right. Chris, how are you, man?
Good. Appreciate it.
Oh, boy. What we got here, man? This is not your average A model or T model, folks.
No,
what year is it, man?
1908 Stanley.
An 08 Stanley, and this is one of them steamers, right?
It is, absolutely. Matter of fact.
Oh, boy. Check this out.
So there you go.
That's a little confusing on the street. Everybody relates that noise to a train.
Yep.
Yeah. Wow, man, what a ride. This is beautiful. And, not educated on steam cars, so tell us all about it, Chris.
Well, Stanley built steamers from about 1899 off and on until the 20s.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, like I said, is a 1908 model, and this came shortly after they set the land speed record in 1906 at 127 miles per hour.
Really, in a steam car back then.
Yep. And so the exact engine that was in that record car was built into this semi-racer, it's called, and they made 26 of them.
Okay.
And this is one of the surviving 26.
Wow.
So it's a white knuckle ride.
Oh boy! And where does this car reside? Is this here in Georgia?
Georgia, yeah, I'm in Jasper, Georgia, just north of Atlanta.
Sweet. And you can only put 3 people in it, Chris.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
right. And I have a family of 4, so I get reminded of that pretty often.
I bet you do.
Yep.
So do you get to take it out of the shop and cruise
We
around?
do.
It?
We've just got it back together and running, but we've been driving it some every chance we can, sorting out issues and working out kinks.
There you go, folks. People still enjoy these rides, and you know I would too. I'd be trying to get it out.
It's a hoot.
All right, now most people looking at how the steam cars are designed and all, can they be dangerous?
There's more of a danger from fire. There's really no danger to the boiler blowing up. The design's pretty fail-safe, but you can have a fire. You've got pressurized and vaporized kerosene.
Sure. Yeah.
So
Kerosene. Yeah.
So you can get arm hairs singed off a little,
little
but
bit,
you know, that's part of it.
Take us through the simple process of operating it. I mean, how do you fire this thing up and get it running?
We can start at the front.
Okay.
So this area here is the burner, and you start by preheating this spot in here, and you'll light the pilot light and let it run long enough to start warming things up, 10 or 15 minutes.
Okay.
And that'll start to heat the vaporizer for the main fuel, and then you start the main fuel, which is kerosene, and 20-30 minutes you'll start to have steam pressure. And once you're up and running, there are systems to turn that burner on and off automatically based on the need for steam. So it's automatically regulated.
And how many gallons of water do you initially put in it to get it started?
You know, I think the boiler probably holds 15, 18 gallons, and then you have a water tank under the seat that holds about 25, which will get you about 20 miles down the road.
All right.
So
there you go.
it being a sports car, it wasn't made for long distances. So
Okay. Gotcha. There's some period correct little knobs and
they are,
water faucet looking knobs all over this
it's
thing.
got more dials and knobs and gauges than a 747, I swear.
I got to say, the front suspension looks quite robust and tough.
Yeah, it holds up.
That axle's no skinny piece of metal.
Yeah. The conditions they ran in back then were pretty rough, of course. So.
Well, there's an empty sprocket going on here on the front wheel.
For the speedometer, and it's not hooked up, but
Gotcha.
there's a drive there.
All right. Interesting how they design things and all, man. That's cool.
It's all wood.
Yeah. Okay.
Even down to the fenders.
The fenders are wood.
The fenders are wood. The body's wood. The frame's wood.
Yeah.
These perch poles that hold the front and rear end together, they're all wood. It's all wood.
How's it handle, man, at about 40 mile an hour? What do you think?
It's a little shaky.
Is it a little shaky?
I think once it's all sorted out and the wheels and tires are balanced, you can handle it at 40 or 50.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, where you go about getting tires for it when it comes time to do that?
This guy over
there
here.
you go.
Yeah, that guy there.
Coker Tire.
Coker Tire, that's the place.
Mr. Tire himself over there.
right.
He loves it when you wear out tires.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Matter of fact.
Hey, Chris, thank you for
I
showing your
appreciate
ride
it.
here, man.
Absolutely.
Fantastic
Thanks a bunch.
steam engine from 1908.
08.
Jerry, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well. How are you?
No, I'm just fantastic, man, here at the
Good.
Concours show. Man, 3-cylinder Thomas. Wow. You know, I don't think I've ever had anything like this on the show, man. This is fantastic. The thing is in excellent shape, folks. When dollar bill, you got to cover it because you probably won't never see another one. You won't see them on the street ever, right, Jerry?
You won't ever see another one.
Yeah.
Because to our knowledge, this is the only 3-cylinder left.
Oh, boy.
It's the only survivor. It was made by Thomas Flyer in 1904. It was the only year they made the 3-cylinder.
Okay.
Because in 1903, like the one over there, they made 1-cylinder, and then they jumped to the 3, and then in 1905 they jumped to a 4-cylinder and never looked back.
All right, so is this what kicked off the whole name, Thomas Flyer, this vehicle?
It actually is. The 1904 was the first time they coined the phrase Thomas Flyer in the brochures.
Right.
And it did not have a model number A lot of people call it a Model 24 because that's how many horsepower it has, but it's not. In the brochures, which I have some old brochures and some copies as well, but it was called a 3-cylinder Thomas Flyer.
Okay. Wow. Fantastic, man. And from what I understand, this thing has ties to the very first great race, maybe?
It actually is a forerunner to the car that won the great race. That was a 1907
Okay.
460.
All right.
It was a small frame car and a lot of horsepower. This one is the forerunner of that. And actually, Thomas became world renowned for building their motors. Their motors were superb motors.
Okay.
And they were very high quality cars. And consequently, they were among the vehicles that were kind of the creme de la creme of the brass age.
And what year did you say this was?
1904.
All right, Dollar Bill, check this out. Come around here and get a good shot of this engine, because I'm looking at 3 separate jugs here on top of a small block. You have brass intake going into this thing. The belt for the fan is made out of whatever.
That's leather.
What is it? That's leather.
It's
right?
actually rounded leather.
Wow, a fantastic job. I mean, back in the day, Thomas was probably on top of their game putting something together like this. A lot of brass going on. The brass era was hot. Check out those lamps, the headlamps. Fantastic, man.
Yeah, this particular car was restored by a man named Oat Courier out of Landis, North Carolina, back in about 1960. Okay. And it's never been touched since, and it actually hadn't even run for the last 30 years. But we got it running this spring, and it runs okay. It's got a couple of little bugs in it, as you would expect, but it wants to run.
And you believe this wood, all the woodwork on this car that's all original? Everything's period correct?
Now that I can't tell you. I don't know if Oat put that on, but it is period correct, and it is mahogany.
Okay.
And I suspect it might very well be original. I know the body is all original. The car is probably 90+% original.
Gotcha. All right. That horn works?
No, it doesn't even have a bulb. The bulb has dry rotted.
Yeah.
And we don't want to mess with it. We want to leave it just like it is.
Oh, yeah, you wouldn't want to change it.
Right.
But sitting around on that thing, man, is like sitting around on your couch in your living room. Look at that. Wow, diamond tough interior.
Yeah.
That's just, man. So what about
that's the way Thomas did it.
Yeah. So what about a top for this thing? I mean, I see the little brackets here for the top.
Yeah, it actually has a little Surrey top, and it's made of wood. Okay. We've got it at the barn. It is unrestored. Okay. But in 1904, this was another feature of this car was that it was the first time the word convertible was used to describe a car. Gotcha. And it was this car. It was this model. How about that? And it had little supports that you could put in and put the top on, or you could take it off. Nice, man. And I'm quite positive you're going to restore the top, and you will have it up and running. I don't know if we're going to do that or not. No? But I would have to, man. You got to put it on the car and go show it, man. That's just me, though. Yeah. Well, you haven't seen the top. It's pretty rough. We might have to just make one that looks like it. Yeah, I could imagine. But to show it off, that'd be fun to have a top. Sure. Fantastic details on this ride. E.R. Thomas Motor Company, Buffalo, New York. Wow, the Thomas Flyer. Jerry, thank you, sir. Thank you. All right.
We're at Concours de Elegance at Chateau Elan for Hot Rod Madness.
Hey, how you doing?
Doing great. How about yourself?
All right. There's so many of you, I don't know who to talk to. What's your name, sir?
Justin.
Hey, Justin. Very unique ride you got here, buddy. So I'm guessing this is a Georgia Tech student car build. Mm-hmm. Is this total electric?
Yes, it's fully electric. Yeah. So we have power regulator that takes in solar energy and converts it to usable electrical energy that charges up a battery pack. Yeah. We in turn draw power from that battery pack to power up our in-hub electric motors that drive the car from the rear wheels.
Cool. Solar race car, right? Mm-hmm. Man, how far have y'all went in it?
Including all the test drives, it's very hard to count. From official race miles. Right. We've ran at least 1,700 plus. I'm not sure about our track race actually. Really? So plus however much we've driven on the track race.
Right. So 1,700 miles, right?
Right. So we ended up going driving from Nebraska all the way to Oregon.
Oh, man.
In a 9-day race.
So what do you got? Golf cart motors? What powers that thing? What kind of system you got there?
So the motors are actually custom designed 3-phase induction motors.
Okay.
They're designed for solar car applications, and you can tell because they're in hub, which means that there's no driving shaft that powers up both wheels.
Okay.
What ends up happening is that each motor is responsible for driving each wheel.
Gotcha. Okay. So the whole body is like a solar panel, right?
Right. So according to competition regulations,
Yeah.
we're allowed up to about 4 square meters of solar cells.
Yeah.
The solar cells that we're using currently are nominally about 22 to 23% efficient.
Huh.
Unfortunately, it's missing a little bit of solar cells in the front
Yeah.
because of a regulation change. We used to
man.
they cut down the available solar energy by a third.
They cut some of it out. So, oh man. So let me get an idea on these panels. Come here.
Sure.
Each panel. What does something like one of these cost, man? Maybe I want to build my own little project, man. Where can I find these?
So SunPower has actually given us a great discount on their solar cells.
Okay.
So for us, it's available. So this particular cell is about $315 per cell.
Wow.
I believe commercially it's a little bit more. I'm not exactly sure about the pricing table there.
All right, gotcha. And where's a feller go about getting one of them motors, man, for each hub? Can I go online and order something like that and build my own car?
So I think you just have to contact them directly over phone.
Okay,
They're based in Australia, so it's quite a bit of a hassle. But
All right. Wow, I'm looking at the controls here going, man, that looks complicated. Who drives this thing?
any small driver that we can fit in the car.
Oh, look, she's small frame. This guy here, you can't weigh 50 pounds. What's your name, sir?
Isaac.
Have you drove it?
I have not driven this car, although I have driven the previous iteration in like parking lot tests to like essentially verify functionality before we do more serious testing.
Wow. Man, that's amazing, man. I love what you guys doing. That's cool. Come here, man. Who built the chassis for this thing? That's all tube chassis.
So we have student welders that are trained how to weld. This particular frame was partially a legacy design handed down by more senior members that I could not identify, even if I saw their faces. And also existing members on the team. We have, a very talented welder called Lindsay who basically put all of this together.
Cool. Super cool, man. You can tell it's very used. You guys been cruising around in this thing.
Right. It's gone through a lot of things while test driving, as well as the race that we participated in.
Man, that's cool. Thanks for showing your ride here on Hot Rod Madness.
Thank you for stopping by.
Hi, Janice. How are you?
Hi, I'm Janice Phillips.
Hey, Janice Phillips. Wow. 1910 Oakland, folks. Look at this thing. That car is gorgeous, modeled in blue like that. The brass, the polished brass and all.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. You folks got an eye for the rides. I'll tell you what, man. Dollar Bill, when you start covering that, man, get some detail shots of the engine over there, because the engine is just as clean as the outside of this car. That's amazing. Wow.
It's very pretty.
Yeah.
And we've had a lot of fun with it.
I'll bet you have.
We acquired it back in December.
Okay.
And actually we found this car at this show last year.
Okay.
And then we followed it to Hilton Head, to the Hilton Head Concours.
Yeah.
We took our 41 Cadillac, and the owners had this one at Hilton Head, and they took a Palmetto Award with the car.
Okay.
And they were getting on up in age, and they were looking to get out of the trailering business. And it just so happened Paul and I were interested in brass era car, and they were interested in selling. So we struck a deal, and in December we went to Sebring, Florida, and picked it up. We've taken it to Keels and Wheels in Houston back in May, and it took first in class. And we took it to the Keeneland Concours Elegance in Lexington a few weeks ago, and it won first in class in that one also.
Oh, boy, I was about to say, I bet you got a lot of trophies with this thing.
Well, we haven't had it long enough to get a lot of trophies, but where we've taken it, we've gotten a trophy.
Yeah, you're going to get more. Yeah, I can see. Have you watched how it's started up? Does the hand crank and all that still work? Is there an electric starter at all?
There is an electric starter.
Okay, gotcha.
We have not used the hand crank.
Takes some arm power to get that baby cooked. Yeah.
Right.
I could imagine. But anyways, I'm a big fan of the polished brass air. That stuff is absolutely gorgeous. I think I've interviewed your husband there. What's his name?
My husband is Paul Phillips, and yes, you interviewed him at Caffeine and Octane
Yes, ma'am.
with the 1941 Cadillac 60 Special.
Ah, that beautiful blue Cadillac is right down the hill from us. isn't
Piano
it?
blue.
Yes, and blue. You guys love blue.
We do.
It is beautiful. Hey,
Thank you very much.
thank you for showing your
Thank
ride.
you.
How you doing, sir?
I'm good. How are you?
Well, I'm great, man. Looking at a very short race car. Man, you're a big guy. You fit in that thing pretty
I
good?
fit in there.
Yeah.
You'd be amazed how roomy it is in there, because the engine's in the back,
Yeah.
so there's plenty of room in the front for my long
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
So you got all kind of leg room
All
under the
kind of leg
dash,
room
right?
in there. Yeah, it's 896 pounds, aluminum,
Yeah.
tubular frame, Cooper factory race car,
No way.
1956
Yeah.
Cooper T39 Mark II.
This is one of those cars that got raced back in the day and won some races probably.
This was raced by Sir Jack Brabham, one of the most famous race car drivers in the world at the time.
Okay.
Won Formula One in 1959, 1960 for Cooper because of this car. This is the first race car to move the engine to the back
Yeah.
and change the face of racing. So this is kind of an iconic race car.
Oh man, lots of history going on here, right?
A lot of history on
Nice.
this car.
Oh,
Very
boy.
famous drivers drove this car, and this won the German Grand Prix in 1956. It raced at Aintree, at Brands Hatch, at Oulton Park,
Okay.
all over England, and
So you still keep it running, right?
this thing
Yeah.
runs like a top.
You put the helmet on and go at it on the weekends, right?
Yeah, this thing's awesome.
Man,
It's
that's cool. A lot of fun, right?
a lot of fun, tons of fun.
Boy. Man, check out the ribbon this guy got.
I got the VD, Vehicle of Distinction.
How about that? Okay. Car number 31.
That's right.
Vehicle of distinction. Okay. So you're. I'm looking at the interior here. A little bitty shifter off to the side there. What kind of transmission is this thing got in it?
Well, it's it's got a very finicky gearbox, very tight shift.
Mhm.
It's neutral is like a hair on this thing.
Wow. Yeah.
You got a push button reverse down there. You got to find the neutral and then hit the. It's not really meant to be in reverse, and it's not really meant to stop. The brakes are an
Right.
afterthought.
Oh man.
Everything about it. I mean, it's
Yeah. So once you get this baby rolling, man, you got to really know what you're doing to stop it.
you don't really want to stop it.
You don't want to stop.
It's got a 1100. This is a FWA Coventry Climax motor. It was raced with both FWA and FWB, which was a 1500 cc Coventry Climax.
Okay.
These were originally fire pump motors.
Really?
Somebody saw them running,
Yeah.
putting out fires for 12, 24
Yeah.
hours at a time, and decided, hey, this should be a race car engine. So they made them race car engines, and they're bulletproof little motors. Hard to find, but really good, amazing little motors.
And the transaxle and all back here, what is that? Porsche? What is that?
No,
Oh,
that's Cooper. That's
Cooper
yeah,
stuff?
yeah. It's all Cooper. Everything's chassis, body. Everything is
Okay.
Cooper. The motors, the Coventry Climax, SU carbs.
Mm-hmm.
I believe the gearbox is a Citroen gearbox on this.
Good stuff for the viewers. I mean, I'm not familiar with Cooper stuff. This is great for me.
Yeah,
I'm loving it. Man.
Yeah, these Coventry Climaxes are hard to find now, but they were very common back in the day. They were
Sure.
Lotus 11s ran them, Tajero Climaxes ran them, Lola Climax ran them because they're bulletproof. They'd run for days without
Wow.
having a problem. So
Nice.
yeah, they were
Two carbs.
two carbs.
Yeah.
Some of them ran SUs, some of them ran Webers.
Mm-hmm.
This one's the SU, obviously.
Yeah, a little bitty header on it going out
tiny
to us. Just straight little muffler. That's bare bones, man. That's pretty cool stuff.
This is a race car.
Kind of simple, yeah.
It's meant to pop this motor out, put a different motor in. You can change everything out. The only thing that's on this car that was probably not vintage and is the tartan in the middle. That's my family's tartan in the seat. So that's the only thing that's was not period correct.
Right. But you got to have some comfort, right?
I got to have my own stamp on the on the car.
Yeah.
So that's
personalize it just a little.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Especially if you're going to be running it. I mean, why not? Right?
Exactly.
Mr. Deneen, how are you, sir?
I'm fine, thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Hey, man, what you got in your hand there, buddy?
Well, I have a blue ribbon for best in class today.
Look at this.
Yeah.
I think that's best in class #1, right?
That's number one. That's right. Yep.
And you won it with? this thing.
Right.
Amazing. What is this?
It's a 1910 Silver Ghost chassis. It was a double Pullman limousine body, which was bodied by Fuller.
Okay.
Because the bodies in the chassis were not bought as one back then. You would buy your chassis and then have the type of body that you wanted for the chassis and whomever you wanted to contract with.
Okay.
Yeah, a little bit different than today.
Oh man, very different, man. I'm just I'm looking at all the brass on the engine, going, wow, man, look at this thing. That is fantastic. Who restored this thing?
Well, this car is in its original condition. It was put away from 1916 until 1954.
Really?
Yeah.
So all this wood, you're telling me all the brass, all the wood, everything is originally correct.
Original cloth.
Amazing.
Yeah, original cloth interior, which is unreal.
Yes.
Unreal to have cloth survive that long.
Oh, sure. Yeah, Dollar Bill, you get a chance, kind of get that camera in the window and look at that original cloth, would you? Yeah.
The car was repainted 45 years ago.
Okay.
But other than a repaint, it's only had sympathetic restoration.
Okay.
To keep it original, but also keep it roadworthy.
Wow. 45 years ago, somebody decided they was going to repaint it.
Yeah, that's right.
It's been taken care of. I'm looking at all the space inside of this thing, man. That's like, wow, sitting around in your house, you know, on the couch. Look at this thing. You can put your whole family in it, even back then.
Right. Right. It was. This was in the Edwardian era, and most of the people that owned these cars were the landowning class.
Okay.
In the UK and Scotland and.
Wow.
And so. It runs about 50 miles an hour is a comfortable speed for the car, which for 1910 and the roads they had there was not too bad.
I just can't imagine bouncing down a dirt road in this thing, man. Look at this, such an elegant vehicle on
It
the
doesn't bounce too much.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a very smooth ride.
Very
smooth ride. Yeah.
And the chassis, you said something Ghost. What was that?
Silver Ghost.
Silver Ghost built the chassis, and I guess they were ahead of their
Yeah,
time.
it's a Rolls Royce, and the chassis was called the Silver Ghost.
Okay, yeah, that was confusing me a little. It's a Rolls Royce and Silver Ghost.
They had names for their cars. They had chassis names like they do today. They still have names for them. But
what an education the Milkman's getting this weekend. This is fantastic stuff. Look at this engine. How big's that motor, man?
It's around 400 cubic inches, a straight six.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. 2 blocks of 3. There are 3 pistons in each block. Very smooth, very quiet, very well engineered. The transmission is smooth and the clutch is smooth, and there's not a lot of rattling, and it's just a very smooth, well engineered machine.
And as far as the transmission goes, how many speeds you got there?
This has a 3-speed.
Okay.
Yeah, this has a 3-speed transmission. They changed transmissions over time. They started with a 4-speed, then a 3-speed, then back to a 4-speed. Over 20 years. The Silver Ghost chassis was built for 20 years.
Wow. I got to take a peek inside this thing, man. Oh, boy, look at this. Even the steering column is polished brass, right? One solid polished brass steering column. The gauges are brass. They one line coming up there feeding them.
Now the owner could specify nickel bright work.
Okay.
This owner specified brass, except in the rear compartment where it's nickel.
Yeah, it is. They changed it.
Yeah, she wanted nickel. Why, I don't know. I don't have a clue. Yeah.
Preference, I guess. You know,
Preference,
hey,
however you wanted it made, they built it for you.
Yep. Back here in the back half of this coach would be where you kick back, relax, and take it easy while this thing smoothly guides you down the road.
Occasional seats.
Oh, yeah, it's got 2 little jump seats here, maybe. Check that out, Dollar Bill. His blue ribbon is getting in his way a little. Oh, boy, look, there you go. S&A Fuller, stamped right on the rocker panel.
Yeah, that's
cool.
That's the coach builder. Yeah.
Okay.
It's probably the only surviving Fuller-bodied car left in existence.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so Fuller did not make a lot of bodies, but it's a very, very good, robust body.
Wow, and it was an honor to come over here and talk to you about it, man.
Well,
to see this stuff. That's
welcome.
fantastic, man.
welcome.
Thank you,
very
sir.
much.
Appreciate you showing your ride here on Hot Rod
You're
Madness.
welcome. Have a good day.
Hi, I'm Rita Case, here with the Boca Raton Concours Elegance at the end of February. I hope you'll come down to Fort Lauderdale and see us. And you're watching Hot Rod Madness.
Oh boy, Dr. Schlick, how are you, sir?
I'm fine, thank you. I'm fine.
Right.
I'm fine.
I'm loving your ride here, man.
Yep.
And the emblem on the nose caught my eye from way over there. I'm going, I don't think I've ever seen one like it.
That's called Adonis or Sliding Boy.
Okay.
And it came out in 29. And they only used it for 2 years, 29 and 30. It was an accessory, and these cars were accessorized multiple times, with multiple pieces of options. For example, the chrome wire wheels, or the dual side mounts, the driving lights, the grill guard, and white walls. And when these cars were built, of course, this is a Ray Dietrich design, custom bodied on a 145-inch wheelbase. Okay. And when these cars were built, they were built for typically the affluent, but more importantly than that, they were built for the chauffeurs. And I'll tell you, back in the time, Vanderbilt, Rockefeller, the chauffeur, would be talking with Mr. Rockefeller, and Rockefeller would say, "Is it time for a new car?" "Oh, yes, sir, it is." "And what kind of a car should we buy?" That's not what he was asking him. He was asking him, "What kind of a car can you work on?" Wow. And the fella says, "Well, I only work on Packards." And the first people to see these custom cars at the custom car shows, and they were at the Drake Hotel in Chicago, they were at the Park Hotel in New York, etc. The first people to even observe these cars was not the owners, they were the chauffeurs. Because the chauffeurs, not only did they drive the cars, but they had to maintain the cars. And you have to realize, pre-Depression, we had really two problems with automobiles. One is they did not have the metallurgy to make the springs keep springing, and so you'd break valve springs. That was very common. And the other problem, of course, was that the fuel products were so poor that every 8,000-10,000 miles, you would have to literally take the head off and decarbon the engine. Wow. And so, when you look at the 40s and early 50s, very early 50s movies, and you see the chauffeur in New York and he's wiping down the fender. Well, he did more than wipe down the fender. He literally maintained the whole car. And the owner's manuals on these cars are like service manuals, because it has to tell them how to set the backlash on the differential, and all the rest of the mechanics of the car. So
unless you own one of these, man, you'd never know all that had to go into it to keep it up to this level.
Yep.
This level, wow! This is two-tone blue.
Yes, sir.
What do you call the color? The correct name for the color?
There is no correct name, because being a Dietrich-bodied, custom-bodied car, the owner said, "I want these colors."
Okay.
Now I'll tell you something very else that's very interesting. The colors of the automobiles reflected the economic conditions.
Okay.
And keep in mind, this is a pre-Depression car. If you look over my shoulder at a Depression-era car, the bright colors are gone. Wow. You're down to deep maroons, deep greens, deep navy blues, etc. In 1929, when Packard came up with their custom series cars, and there were 11 different cars, only one of them was painted black. Wow. Why? It was in good economic conditions. If you drove this car during the Depression in New York City, guy'd pick up a rock and throw it at you. I mean, you have to understand, the guy standing on the corner trying to sell an apple for a nickel. And I mean, this is opulence that they didn't need. They didn't need. So that's some of the history that backs up the cars.
And the history just goes on and on. How you doing, sir?
I'm just fine. How are you?
I'm great, man. Look at these vehicles, man. We're surrounded by concours of vehicles, man.
This is a fantastic show, and there's just so many cars here that are beautiful.
Yes.
Unlike a lot of shows, it's just have cars. This has got cars that look nice.
Very special rides here today, and you got one, man. Look at this Woody.
Got one.
Wow. What year is yours?
This is a 1946 Chrysler. It's a Town & Country Woody convertible.
Wow.
It was restored, finished about 4 years ago. Took about 3 years to restore it. Original, 100% like it came off the line.
Oh boy.
and was sold to a man in Portland, Oregon. So we shipped out there. We had track of it for about a few years. We lost track of it for about 10, but then it went to Michigan and Wisconsin and Florida and to me.
Oh, boy.
And Larry Griffey in Knoxville, Tennessee, did the restoration with Kevin Really.
Okay. I'm kind of
It's
familiar
all
with
done.
his work, and fantastic work, man, I got to say.
He's got a lot of cars here. I found out he made nice cars. He did nice cars, and so I let him do this.
Man, beautiful ride, man.
Thank you.
You know, when you walk by a Woody, you can't help but notice the wood grain is actually part of the body. All that wood, it's not
That's
just
right.
for looks on these old vehicles. It's part of the body.
That's right. 46, 47, 48 were the last years where the wood was actually structural.
Yeah.
Was not metal beyond the
Gotcha.
firewall.
After that, it was simulated at some point.
It was simulated.
Yeah.
It was always simulated. It was made to look like wood, but it wasn't really wood.
Okay. How are you, sir?
Great. How are you today?
Ooh, I'm good. How are you, man?
I'm well, thank you.
Boy, look at this. Very patriotic car you have here, sir. I mean,
blue, yeah.
other than what it is, man, this is red, white, and blue, and it just pops from way over there. I'm going, look at that beautiful blue Buick. 53?
1953, yep.
Yeah, man. So we both discussed, we don't know how far back the Skylark name actually goes.
Correct.
But, hey, for our viewers, if you know, hit us with an email. We'd like to know. Beautiful 53 Buick, period correct. Very elegantly done, man. I'm looking under the hood going, man, look how clean this engine is. And the first thing I said when I walked up, oh, your air cleaner's very shiny.
Yeah. You got to keep these cars clean.
Yeah, so you people have a very good eye for elegant vehicles, man. How long have you owned this one?
We've owned this about 2 years now.
Okay.
Yeah, we picked it up in June at Barrett Jackson up in Connecticut a couple years ago. Yeah.
All right, sir. And I could imagine this is one of your collection, right?
It is one of.
Yeah.
Our collection's not that big, but it's one of.
Right.
We got a green Chevy across the way, an old green Chevy, and we got
Okay.
a Bel Air and a 69 Camaro that someday will come out of the shop.
Okay. Ah, so which one does she own? What's your name, lady?
Charla Collings.
Okay, so is this your car, really? I mean,
Mine is a 36 Chevy.
36 Chevy.
That's my favorite.
All right, I'm a Chevy guy myself, yeah. Gotta love that stuff, right? So are we going to see it next year at the show?
It's here.
It's already here.
It's right over there.
Oh,
Yeah.
boy. Which one is it over there?
That green one.
Okay. Oh, nice. That thing's all period correct, too, isn't it?
It is. We were at an auction, and she hit my arm up, and next thing you know, we owned it.
Oh, boy, yeah. I can imagine. Gonna get by me that Chevy over there. Hey, so this car here is period correct, right?
Yes, sir.
All original under the hood.
Yes, it is.
What kind of carburetor is that, man? I'm trying to get a peek on it, but you can't really see it under.
A Carter carburetor.
Yeah. 2-barrel, 4-barrel?
It's a 4-barrel, 4-barrel carburetor.
So in 53, they would put the 4 barrels on there.
They would. Recently rebuilt. Runs a lot better now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Gotta have a good running car, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
I gotta look at that red and white interior, man. Let's check that
It
out.
runs perfect except for when the judges stop by today.
Oh, yeah. So you gotta fire it up and let them hear it run, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's part of the judgment here.
It is, yes.
The body lines, the styling of this thing, that's just phenomenal, man. I mean,
This car was Buick's 50th anniversary, so it was a car to commemorate them being in business 50 years.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, if you look at this thing, it looks like I don't know. It don't look real.
Yeah.
It looks like a model car. It's so well put together. That thing's is beautiful.
It does. When we first saw it in the catalog, they took a picture of it against a white backdrop.
Sure.
So, yeah, to your point, it did look like it wasn't quite real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see this sitting around in a museum. Look at the dash, would you, Dollar Bill? Check that out. That is some phenomenal work there. All factory. The design, the pattern on the dash, that's factory stuff?
Everything's factory original on the dash. Everything works.
That's so cool, man.
Yep, you can still pull up a little AM radio on it.
Yeah.
It's got power antenna, so you push a button and it goes up.
Nice. Sweet. Love all the chrome, the period correct chrome, man. You know, they were big into chrome stuff.
Yeah.
And you ain't going to find another grill on another car unlike the Buick.
Yeah,
man.
no, the chrome was fantastic.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, folks, that's all the time we got here on Hot Rod Madness this week. I hope you enjoyed the Concours show. I know I did. Man, that's some fantastic rides out here, and I hope to come back next year and cover it again, because I'm quite sure This show is going to keep growing. These folks have a blast out here. So, hey, stay tuned to Hot Rod Madness. There's no telling where we'll end up next week.
Thanks for watching, and check back soon for more Hot Rod Madness.